Good evening and warm welcome to this leadership conversation. This is session number 175, a big landmark for us in terms of a milestone. And we have been holding these every Friday, and on certain occasions we hold it on Saturdays depending on convenience, but otherwise usually it is a Friday evening event. So I welcome all of you. Please join me in welcoming the guest speaker this evening, Ms. Midhula. Midhula, welcome. Welcome to this conversation. Thanks for agreeing to speak with us.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward
to meeting. I will do a brief
meeting.
Introduction and then hand it over back to you for your opening remarks. Allow me to share my screen, please. As I mentioned, these are WiseViews leadership conversations, which we hold every Friday. Over the last 3.5 years, without a break, we have been holding these sessions on a weekly basis. And we see this as an opportunity for learning from various leaders coming from all domains, not just business, but even non-business. Today, we have Ms. Midhula, who is going to talk to us. So these opening remarks and introduction will be for about 25 minutes, followed by 40 minutes of Q&A. That is roughly about an hour or so. And we'll delve into this thing. And I have this privilege and pleasure to introduce Ms. Midhula. She is the Chief Marketing Officer and the co-founder at Mivi. She leads and manages the marketing and sales part of the organization. About her early career, she is creative, pragmatic, and proactive problem solver. Started her career as a software engineer with Xerox in the year 2011. After working in the US for a good 5 years, she decided to quit her job and come back to India to embark on her dream of entrepreneurship in her own motherland. In 2016, she, along with her partner, Mr. Vishwanath, laid the foundation of Mivi. Mivi was established with the mission of making premium quality electronics for the needs and preferences of Indians. Mivi is today the largest audio brand in India, based out of Hyderabad. Mivi is the first brand to start audio manufacturing in India and is home to 1,500 plus Indian team. Breaking the stereotype, in her organization itself, the staff consists of 80% women, thereby encouraging and supporting females at every level. And she is the only woman entrepreneur amongst the top 5 brands in this industry in India. That's very interesting. Mivi has sold more than 10 million units since its inception and builds products that surpass international brands. Ms. Midhula's vision is to make Mivi become the tech company of India and become a household name. And the mission is to make premium electronics at an affordable price, curated for the taste of Indians. She believes that no one can promote your product better than a happy customer, and hence focusing on giving the customer the right product and service is the key to a successful business. She watches that their products are built locally, are better than any international brand, and strongly believes that the people are all in support of vocal for local, and that their made in India products are going to change the face of electronics in the coming few years. She completed her graduation from JNTU in 2008 and moved to United States to pursue Masters in Computer Science from Florida State University. She later did her MBA from the same university. Thank you very much, Ms. Midhula. And I will also now welcome Dr. Prasad. He is the Senior Director at Academic Wing. He brings to the table a rich experience of 3 decades as an entrepreneur, as a corporate professional, and now as an academic. He holds BTech from IIT Bombay and PGDM from IIM Kolkata. Welcome, Professor Prasad. Thank you so much. I'll stop sharing the screen here. And we are all set, ma'am. We are extremely inspired by the success story that you have crafted, and you continue to do a lot of inspiring work that is impacting youngsters and also impacting the landscape of electronics, especially audio in this country. We would like to understand more about it in your own words, and after that we'll have 2 clusters of Q&A. The first cluster will be taken up by Professor Prasad, and I'll come back for the second cluster, during which I'll probably open the mic for others also to ask a few questions directly to you. So over to you, and we are all ears. Thank you once again.
So thank you, Mr. Sudhakar. It's absolute pleasure to be here, and I'm very excited. I love talking to young upcoming students because I see them as the next generation of entrepreneurs. And that's the reason the topic I've chosen was also concept to consumer. I'll share the story of how we built Mivi, but it also will include, because many times I get asked this question, I have this amazing idea. How do I actually take it to execution? How do I bring it to life? So I thought that would be something very useful to the audience today to figure out how something can be built, and especially something like Mivi to be built in India. So let me share my screen. So the first thing, how do you come up with the idea? Many times I see a lot of, youngsters being fascinated by somebody else's business. They see that somebody is running an e-commerce business well, a dairy business well, farming well, and then they would want to venture into it because every business looks really rosy from the outside. However, I would encourage you to always figure out an idea from a need or a pain point. To give you the example of Mivi, we came back on one of our trips to India, and then we were trying to get a few electronics for our iPhone. And then we realized that Belkin was available, Sony was available, but there were no Indian brands that were charging the customer a reasonable price. If I could buy a Belkin or an Anchor or something else in the US at like, let's say $20, here they were charging 50, 60. We felt, why should Indians pay more? Actually, we should be paying less, not more. So we found a lot of need there, and we figured this is a space where there is no brand, a brand that is making electronics for the needs of the Indian consumer. Our environment is also very different. Our preferences are different, but nobody is taking that into consideration. So there was a huge space, and it came from the need that we had, the pain point that we faced. Because we went through the journey, we were able to identify, we were able to walk through, do our research in what exactly is the space, the white space. When you don't go through that journey, what happens when you just look at, let's say you're looking at Mivi today and saying that I'll also start an electronics brand, and you don't go through that pain point, you don't know what is the need it was set up for, then your mission and vision will never be on the right path, because you don't know why it has to be started. You don't know who to cater to. You don't know how to cater to those audience. So your idea should always stem from either a need or a pain point in the market. Moving on, the next step, after you have an idea, you have this great idea, what do you do next? You do your market research. You might have the best idea in the world, but unless and until you have the market for it, it is just a great idea. It is not a business. So in order to do market research, again, a lot of questions on this. The primary thing I would look at is e-commerce. It is very widely available today. You could go onto an Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, Nykaa, depending on which category you are in, and figure out, for example, lipsticks. I want to start a makeup brand. How many products is Nykaa selling of a Lakme? How many products is like Nykaa selling of a Revlon? You will get to size the market to a certain scale. The other thing is, for every category, there are a lot of reports that are generated. You go Google it, you will see a lot of reports. Purchase these reports. It's extremely important that you do the right market research. Get these reports, then figure out the size of the market. And once you figure out the size of the market, then figure out the competition analysis. Like I said, when we were starting Mivi, what we did, for example, was we said charging was the category we started with. Everybody needed cables and chargers. So we started with figuring out how many phones are sold in India overall. We got that from a report. Then we said how many phones are sold in e-commerce. Everybody that bought a phone will need at least one charger and one cable. And generally so, they need multiple chargers and multiple cables, because you will want to put one in your office, you want to put one in your, let's say, a hostel room, you want to carry one with you, you might want a power bank along with you. These are ancillary products. The main product is the phone, and the phone will determine the size of the market. Then the second step we did was competition. Like I said, Sony was already in the market. There were other international brands in the market. We went to different stores, the LFRs, which are like Chromas and the Reliances, and figured out how many products do they sell, how many cables do they sell in a day, how many do they sell in a month. You just have to build a rapport with them, be nice, tell them I'm working on some research. Would you be able to share this data? And you will be able to figure out that data. So once we figured out the size of the market, that is when we said the size of the market is big enough for us to enter and make a dent. And then we crafted our mission. Why Mivi? Why should there be another brand? When there is 50 other brands in the market already, why should we have another brand? What is it that we will provide differently? So that we were very clear on. From day one, our mission has been quality electronic gadgets at value pricing. So that has been our mission. The market either had all these international brands that were overcharging us, or they had these domestic brands, which at that time were called, smuggled goods, unorganized sector. These were non-certified, non-genuine parts that would eventually, damage your costly phone. It would eventually damage your ears. The speakers were not good quality. So we figured out Mivi because there was nobody offering that good quality, great quality at value pricing. So we were clear on our mission and goal even before we started the company. The minute we figured out there was a market for it, and then we were clear on our idea and the mission that we wanted to provide, then we built a prototype. We worked with different partners. We were young, in our 20s when we started Mivi, came back from the US. We were very excited, said, we'll go start manufacturing, making these products. We will build India's biggest manufacturing unit. We went around the country and then we figured out, forget about engineers, we could not even hire technicians because there was no other electronics manufacturing entity in India. There was nobody. So not engineers, not skill, not expertise. I could not even hire a regular technician. So what we did instead was we went to China, and that was the only place we could go to. But we never went and white labeled the products and said, okay, you're making 10 products. You put Mivi's name and give it to me. We never did that. Instead, what we did was we figured out what was the pain point in the market. Like I said, the first category we launched into was cables and chargers. So Indians in our households, our sockets are much further away from our beds or sofas. In the Western market, they're generally quite close, but for us, they're quite further away. So that is when we've designed a 6-foot cable, twice the length of our regular cable. The only place a cable breaks, if you see, is at the corner, is at the tip. It's called an SR. So we've designed a flexible SR. We were not able to design these ourselves. So we figured out partners in China that were willing to build products according to our requirement, according to our design. And that's how we built the first prototype. And then we tested it and we reworked on the prototype for a good number of months. And once we felt like, yes, this is a product that would be appreciated in the market, only then we've gone ahead and launched Mivi. It took us from 2015 May when we came back, 2016 April was when we launched the product. It took us a good 10 to 12 months to figure it out. So design the prototype. For example, you want to build a software company. Design a small prototype of that software and give it out for free to a small subset of users. Then ask them for feedback. You could say, okay, first month is free, 3 months are free. Ask them for feedback and rework on it, reiterate to a point where you feel like, no, this is a decent product that I can launch into the market. So testing, building your prototype and testing it is extremely important. And like I put on the PowerPoint, today you can work with freelancers, consultants, government incubators that are willing to help you to get that prototype done. After you build your prototype, the next one is go-to-market strategy. For Mivi, the go-to-market strategy was we will build a great product and we will offer it to the customer at value pricing. There was no other brand that was doing it. So our space, we had a lot of white space at that point of time. The next thing is we took an e-commerce first approach. If you go to an offline store, a retail store, let's say a Chroma, Reliance or Big C, any of these stores and say, I've created a product, I'm building a brand, put my product in the market. Nobody will be willing to give you space. And even if they do, it will come at a very high cost. Versus on e-commerce, anybody can list their products, anybody can appeal to the customers. You will have to know the marketplace. You will have to figure out how to sell on the marketplace, but it is a wide open area for anybody. Like we were discussing before, let's say you're creating that makeup brand. That makeup brand can be created, and we've seen hundreds of makeup brands have been created in the last few years by regular people. So figure out what is the right platform for you. Don't get stuck on, okay, I only have to go to retail. I only have to go to Amazon. I only have to do it on my website. Figure out whatever is the right approach for you. Sometimes it might be B2B. Maybe, you will have to start selling it to businesses, and that is where your business is rather than the consumer. So figure out, and for us, it was the e-commerce first approach. Then the target group. Now, chargers, cables, chargers, or audio that we are into today is used by anybody and everybody. But what happens is when you say, I want to build a product for everyone, it almost becomes impossible to create a niche. Every business will have a niche. You will have to identify who they are and you will have to create products for them. Your product design has to speak to them. Your product marketing has to speak to them. Your targeting has to speak to them. Your copy has to speak to them. Your creative has to speak to them. Your packaging has to speak to them. Your team has to speak to them. If you see the average age of Mivi's marketing group, even today, is no more than 24 years. Because our TG is between 18 to 34. I am no longer my TG. I don't know what is trending. What is it that my TG is looking for? I rely on my team to figure out what is it that this group of young generation is interested in. What is it that they are looking for? And then it is our job to make it for them. So figure out that niche. Don't grow too broad. Otherwise, you will set yourself up for failure. So once we figured out the go-to-market strategy, then we've gone ahead and launched. Like I was mentioning briefly before, in order to launch, understanding and adapting to your partner ecosystem is very critical. We figured out how an Amazon works, how a Flipkart works. At that point of time, Snapdeal was also a big marketplace. How do they work? And each platform works differently. What is it that we can offer to them to meet their KPIs? Often enough, we go and we think about I've created a product. I have a great idea. I've created something wonderful. If you want to pitch, you should understand what the other party needs. Your pitch, for example, our pitch for Mivi would be, we've created a value-based electronics product and a great quality product that is not available in the market today. And selling this kind of product will help you in two ways. Because the price is economical, you will be able to acquire more customers. Because the quality is great, your return rates and all the negativity you get because of unorganized products will come down. And because we offer warranty, there is trust that is being offered by the brand. This is what the marketplace is needed. And we offered it to them. So figure out what is it that your particular channel needs and adapt to it. Adapt to your partner ecosystem. Your partner ecosystems, it's not the responsibility of your partner ecosystems to figure out and give you that path to growth. It's the opposite. It's your job to figure out what is it that your partner ecosystems need and then provide to them. That will set you up for success. So we launched, like I said, in April 2016, and we went into the market with a clear differentiator. Quality, which we've built into product, which we've built into packaging, which we've built into design. But the other thing that we figured out was service in India is almost nil. You barely get any service. You might be buying, even if you buy a luxury car, still the service in India is bad. So we figured if you are able to service the customer in the right way, if you are able to provide the right customer service, because electronics always will have a defect rate. No matter how the best manufacturing you have, you will always have a defect rate. So we said once the customer reaches out to us, and if we service them properly, they are a customer we will have for life. So we've created the difference in service, then marketing. Oftentimes, until a few years ago also, I used to be continuously asked, why doesn't Mivi do that kind of marketing? Why doesn't Mivi do billboards? Why doesn't Mivi do TVCs? We were very clear from day one that we will do ROI-based marketing. ROI is written on investment. We never believed in the path of buying growth. Buying growth is selling your product at a loss. So we don't believe in that mentality or business structure, nor does it make any sense for our category. Because let's say if you're an FMCG category, you're selling shampoo. If you've acquired the customer the first 2 times at a loss, but if they like your product, they will keep buying your product for the next 2 years maybe. So on every subsequent sale, you will make a profit. But let's say you bought a soundbar, you bought an earbud. your return rate to the brand is not for the next 18 months. So it is extremely important to figure out, are you in a category in which you can buy growth or not? If not, I would suggest strictly stay away from it. Run from day one, try to run a profitable business. That will set you up for a longer term, a more sustainable way of building the brand. I'm not sure how many of you have seen, maybe now does TVCs, we've sponsored the Indian cricket series, we've done a lot of hoardings, but this was after 8 years, after reaching a stage where the company is able to afford all that cost because we've built the brand. So ROI based marketing, primarily I would choose marketplaces first. It is the cheapest place. If you're a makeup brand, Nykaa is already pulling in customers. So advertising for you on Nykaa is much cheaper than advertising for you on a Meta or a Google, because you're advertising to everybody versus on a Nykaa, you're advertising to a high intent customer. So we've gone for ROI based marketplace marketing to begin with. Over years, then we've moved on to social media marketing. Then we've moved on to influencer marketing. And now we do 360 degrees marketing. So be a little patient. Don't get carried away by the fancy of marketing and say, fine, I'll, pick up funds. I'll spend some 40, 50 CR. Yes, you will buy growth, but is that growth going to sustain? You should have a plan for sustainable growth if you're buying it. For example, Meta is free for all of us, and they've kept it free. There were no ads on Meta also for a very long time, but they had a plan on how to monetize. Now even Google, the same thing. So they've built the customer base on which they can monetize. Product category is not like that. B2B business is not like that. So figure out for your company, is ROI based marketing the right path, or growth is the right path? Category diversification. When you start a business, especially, not now, but when we've started initially, and I see this quite frequently enough, we get carried away by the ample amount of ancillary opportunities available. When we started Mivi, we saw that there was a lot of scope in packaging, there was a lot of scope in logistics. We could do all these great stuff, and we felt like nobody was doing a great job. We could get into all these businesses. Don't do that. You'll be stretching yourselves very thin. Focus on the core of your business. You should only diversify, even in your category, when you've reached a place and point where you've gained a foothold, you've gained some strength. So only after we've established ourselves in the charging category did we move into audio. We have been in personal audio for a good 3 years. Personal audio is earphones, earbuds, all the personal stuff. And then after 3 years, we ventured into home audio, which is home theater systems and sound bars. This year, we are working on a new category. So take that time, have that patience, establish yourselves as a very prominent player in the category before diversifying yourselves too much. And then this was a breakthrough for us, how we ventured beyond the norm. I'm not sure how many of you know, but Mivi is the first and the only company that does product design, development, and manufacturing, all of it in India. When we've started this in 2020, the manufacturing process, we've built a decent brand name by then. Instead of putting all our money on marketing, we believed product is what will eventually build a sustainable business. So we've diverted all our time, resources into building a manufacturing unit. There were many people that told us, you guys have gone nuts. You'll go bankrupt in the next 6 months. You've completely lost your sense. And I would say they're well-wishers only. The reason being, me nor my partner never had any manufacturing experience. But what we did, however, the background that people don't know was that year in 2015, when we roamed in India and we said, okay, there is no manufacturing, we didn't give up on our dream. What we did was, year on year, we built teams. We've built first a design team, then a tech team, then a development team. We've built teams, and over 5 years, we've reached a stage where we were no longer dependent on any other countries. And from product to finished goods, we were able to make it right in our factory. So people don't know that background, but we've been patient and we've taken it step by step. And how this has helped us is, today we are able to give a quality beyond anybody else at a price that nobody is able to achieve, because we control the entire ecosystem. The entire ecosystem is owned by Mivi. The entire supply chain is owned by Mivi. So that has given us a strong foothold, a huge headway when compared to any other brand in India. And today we have 1,500 plus people working at Mivi. We are building India's biggest 2 lakh square feet R&D manufacturing facility. We've made more than 1 crore products in India for our own brand, and we are being approached by multiple international brands asking us to manufacture for them. So look at the longer vision. So the final slide is the same thing, build a strong foundation. Don't be carried away by today, by the it factors, by what is happening with your competition. Have blinders on, believe in your vision, take this, longer path, take the harder path, but we are very confident that in the next 10 years, Mivi will be a brand that India will say, this is a brand that is competing with all the global electronics brands in the world, not competing in India. It's going to compete in the world only because we've built a product company. We did not build a brand, we've built a product company. And that is my 2 cents and our journey from concept to the consumer.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Midhula. I think that's a great presentation. One, it is an interesting framework to entrepreneurship to begin with. And also, it had all the templates of sandboxing. And at the same time, you juxtaposed your presentation with the journey of Mivi. And that made it all the more convincing. And some of the ethos and the principles that you adhere to are tellingly clear at various stages in your growth. And of course, that's the story of Mivi. Very, very interesting. And this is giving us a lot of fodder for Q&A now. And I'm sure the entire audience is eagerly waiting to understand a little more about it and some of the difficult challenges that you would have actually faced and how did you overcome. We will get into that in the Q&A. But I want to clarify 2 points here, that the audience comprises of no students.
Oh, okay.
The audience comprises of students, but they are not from our campuses. They are basically leaders. They are running businesses. They are from technology. They are from education. They are from social work. They are from all kinds of domains, but they're not our students. Students probably join 1 or 2, but majority of them, 95% of them are leaders with an average work experience of more than 10 to 12 years, in fact, much more. But I'm averaging it over a period of last 175 sessions that we have had. So this is distilling lots of learnings from entrepreneurs like you, leaders like you. And therefore, it sounded out very interesting to an audience that we have attracted till now. So WiseViews has defined its own audience.
Okay.
And therefore, I thought I'll clarify that first.
Thank you so much for the clarification. I would have gotten a few more things. I think it was a miss on my end, but I'll be happy to answer questions.
The second thing I want to clarify is that some of the veterans who have joined today from all walks of life, I welcome all of them for joining this evening as well. They've been joining for several sessions. I am very happy that they are here and they are looking forward to having a good conversation with you.
Absolutely.
We'll make all the room for their questions as well, apart from the questions that moderators like Professor Prasad and I would also have. Sure. So without much ado, I request Professor Prasad to come in for the first cluster of Q&A. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you, Professor Rao. This session is especially interesting because we are poised at a certain stage in the growth of this country. And you have a lot of aspiration around all of us. The Made in India angle makes it even more relevant. Another interesting aspect is both husband and wife are there together in the business and making it do well. And of course, the product angle, which India needs a lot, where eventually there will be margins, there will be value added. And of course, the brand and the retail, which is there in many places, but I think the other 3 generates a lot of curiosity. So let me start with a question on one of them.
Sure.
Both of you have got together to start a business. And if I got it right, the idea started before marriage.
No, we were married.
Okay. What are the key factors which helped both of you to thrive in business? This is a model which may not be there in too many places, but it's a model. And the me and the we, I mean, a pun intended. There must be some brand values which have, brought this together, and when this association worked, and then also in the me and the we. Could you elaborate on that?
So we always been both very enthusiastic about business. And even when we met in the US, we used to talk about business a lot. However, I and Vishnath come with very different strengths. He loves electronics. He's a very product person. His strength has been electronics. His education has been in electronics. I'm a person that loves business, that loves logic, very creative. So we figured out, as we started the journey also, we figured out that we both have very different strengths. And those strengths we've nurtured further. You can ask Vishnath about any electronic product, the smallest electronic product released in the world, he will tell you about it. You can ask me to create a marketing idea just like that, and give me 2 minutes, I'll be able to come up with a very good idea. So taking those strengths, one was staying out of each other's hair. We didn't poke our fingers into each other's business all the time. We've given that respect to each other as co-founders and not just as wife and husband, which was very important for us. And then honing on that skills of, if this is my strength, what can I bring to the table else? Like, I learned electronics. After we thought of starting Mivi, I learned electronics. Vishnath learned design after we started the business. So we were there for each other, but how did we make it a success together is like any two partners, I would say. It was not just because we were wife and husband, but it helped. We were there for each other during those struggling times. And every business has a very tough phase to go through. There was no questions of, okay, you're not spending time with me, you're always on office calls, because we were both doing it. We've made decisions for the company, for our personal life, which aligned with both our visions, and our vision was always the same. If it was different, we talked it out until we aligned on the same. One of us probably compromised sometimes, but we always figured out this is what we are moving towards. And putting the business above our egos was extremely crucial. Like you said, this is not a model where a wife and it's very hard for a wife and husband to succeed, according to me, because you're 24/7 there, along with all the responsibilities you'll have at home. So putting the business above our egos and saying, and not carrying anything home in terms of, if we had a disagreement, we're not carrying it home, not taking it personal. There are a lot of many small things, but maybe success has been more because we were always aligned on what the company should do. Even when we wanted to actually get into manufacturing, it was peak of COVID. I was actually carrying my second child. But we both together made a decision, no, this is something that we will push through and make it happen. So the disagreements happened before, not after we start the process.
Excellent, ma'am. I think it is a unique achievement, and let it thrive going ahead. And I think it calls for a lot of maturity with both of you have displayed at the age groups that you have been in. And I think that congrats for that.
Thank you.
And I think obviously it would have made you better people as you've lived through
I hope
this.
so. I really hope so.
But I think when it works, it is a multiplier. It's a multiplier effect if it works.
See, also, when you're down, you know for a fact that the other person is always there to hold you. And you don't have to explain to them what is wrong. They're in it with you. That with an external partner, you go home, you have to tell your husband, okay, I had a bad day at work. Or you tell your wife, I had a bad day at work. They'll only understand to a certain extent. They'll not understand the gravity of what you're going through. But you're going through it together and you're there for each other. It's also a huge strength.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing the key points which were brought out in order to make this succeed. I'll move to the next question. And this is, before you decided on chargers. You started with chargers.
Yes.
Now, when you came to that decision, there would have been some risks and opportunities which you saw in front of you, and you made this choice. So could you take us through that phase?
So, one, we decided to build an electronics brand, and charging, to be very honest, was a much easier category to start with than audio. How we ventured into it, and today also we maintain that ethos is, before any product of Mivi is launched, our engineers are asked this question: why should we launch this product? And they should always have an answer. It could be a simpler answer saying that this design is much better, the battery capacity is much better, or the color, even as simple as these colors are more trendier now. Or it could be complete technological changes, like we've included Dolby in this. We've, voltage fluctuations we are capturing better in this. So from day one, we said, why should we launch a product? And we launched into the charging category. The same thing we did. We've gone through all the platforms that were carrying all the e-commerce platforms, and you could read reviews. We went through every single product, every single review, and figured out what is the pain point that the customer was facing. For example, like I said before also, the charging cable. We have our sockets much further. So we designed a 6 feet cable, which was twice the length. We designed a braided cable so that it will not break. The charger that we've designed, the wall charger that we use, we were the only company to create a charger with Indian pins. At that point of time, only Western pins used to be there, which are these thin pins, and it would wobble in your socket. So we've created Indian pins. Then we've put much higher capacity capacitors in it to handle voltage fluctuations. Now, this made the charger last longer, and nobody was able. We were the first ones to get BIS certification in 2016. So things like that, figuring out why should we launch a product and doing our market research, and it continues till date. Though, all the product ideas don't come from us anymore. Every time we are doing a product, that answer has to be given. Why one more product? What is it that is missing in the market? What is it that is missing with Mivi's other products, that we have to do it? And that was important.
Fantastic, ma'am. There is quite a bit when you look at how to even decide getting into a category. I mean, much more, of course, when you go into the category. But I think the big decision that you've taken of taking into charges, you did explain some of the points. Now coming.
Oh, you're asking why did we get into a particular category?
The first category, charges. That was the main question. Yeah.
So same thing. Like I said, there was no brand in itself. There were only these international brands. Belkin you can buy, Sony you could buy. Anchor was also not there at that point of time. Belkin, if it was, or there was, they were not using genuine parts. And this will, damage our phones or laptops or iPads or tablets. So we saw a lot of space where we said there is no brand that is making great quality products at value pricing. That is why we went into that category.
So your sense of the opportunity when you put it on priority basis was greater in chargers than perhaps the audio products that maybe would have been on your mind.
We did not, very honestly, we did not have audio at that point of time in our mind, because charging was where we personally faced an issue when we tried to buy products. We had headphones from Sony at that point of time. We never really felt like, we didn't try to procure a headphone or a speaker in India. Charging was what we tried to do, and our pain point and our need was what led us into that category. And once we went in, we then saw opportunity, like which categories can we further move into, and audio was a very lucrative space.
Fine, ma'am. I think that makes it more clear. So when you ventured into electronics, the pain points became more obvious to you in the charger category.
Yes.
So you did more research it in, and then you got into that. And you use the same thing that you said earlier, that let's focus on something and take that as a first step, settle in it, and then move into the next.
Yes.
Yeah. Very, very scientific approach, I must say, as far as the business development as well as the marketing goes. Ma'am, then the next question again, I'm not focusing on marketing right now. I'm focusing on the other things, because you did give a structured approach. So here, the question I have is, you've spoken about maximizing value for customers, rather than, the price or the low price or whatever that may be. And that control you have in manufacturing. You've spoken about components, how you can play around with which component you want to invest more in for every pie that you invest into it. Now, can you take a case study of, take the use case of audio pods? So you have a market there, you built a manufacturing facility, you did the R&D in this. So can you take us through how you decide that this is more important, so we'll invest more into that?
For example, we've launched one of our latest launches is called SuperPods Immersive. It comes with Dolby. It sells into the market at 2,200 rupees. It is one of, in terms of personal audio in earbuds, it is one of Mivi's costlier products. We've figured out in the market what is it is more important for the customer. If let's say to make the 2,200, if I had to spend 10 rupees, should I invest in packaging that extra 50 paisa? We didn't, I mean, we've invested probably like 10 paisa additional into packaging. But if invested the majority of the cost that got incremented, we've invested in Dolby, in creating that product where Dolby effect is given, in procuring that license, because Dolby has a very big pull in the market. That is more important to the consumer. We did not launch 10 different colors. We generally launch 6-7 colors with a product. We only stuck to 4, and now we are actually bringing it down to 3. Now this reduces my inventory cost. I don't want to offer, I'm saving on efficiency and building efficiencies so that I'm able to give a Dolby product to the customer at 2,200 rupees. For them, the design was very important. So we spent a lot of time on design. I think, we've kind of reached the, probably I'm talking about the wrong product, because we've kind of reached a stage over years where we are able to make a product using all the best things that we can and should offer. If you go a little further back, when we were starting the earbuds, the battery capacity, for example, was much more important, that we put a larger battery in it than making sure the finish is the most premium. I would rather not spend that additional 200-300 rupees on finish, but give them a 40-hour battery at that point of time, because a value customer is looking for specs. They're okay if the finish is not as good as an international brand. They're okay that at a 1,200 rupees, I'm able to pick up a product. It works. Sound quality, we never compromised on. So selecting the chipset and, fine-tuning it and creating technology around it was again extremely important. Those things we spent on. Our packaging used to be very not so costly. We spent minimal on packaging. We spent minimal on finishes. We spent minimal on the cable that was given with them. We spent minimal on the manual that was shared with them. So these things we compromised on, but we made sure sound quality was the best. We made sure battery capacity was the best. We made sure it will work a good amount of time. A few years ago, that is what we used to, but now we're able to, as a brand, also charge the customer still value, but still we're able to offer all this technology. So maybe today's product is not on that lines, but yes, we've gone with what is important to the customer, built around it, and then ancillary things, it was okay to compromise on.
Fantastic, ma'am. I think there are a lot of lessons in what you have said, because you seem to be moving up the value chain.
Yes.
And it opens up a lot of potential for you going ahead, though your original positioning was of a certain nature.
Correct.
Particularly when you go out into global markets, perhaps a few years later, it opens up a lot of potential. I think a lot of insights are there in the way you've expressed, that you put more attention on the battery capacity while maintaining the sound quality and not spending too much on finishing or packaging, though you did what was the required thing.
Yes.
A lot of lessons for people around, particularly, when you were also mentioning that the earlier competition in one of the earlier conversations, that a lot of traders who bought in and, then they tried a lot of products, and then, it was not very clear what they were trying to serve, which customer, and then many of them dropped out. I think in that context, this is very valuable, and a market like India will afford you this kind of size. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank
you very much for the insights. I have a couple of other questions, but we are at 7:17. I'll hand it back to Professor Rao. We'll see how the time goes.
Sure.
Thank you, Professor Prasad. This is very interesting. You should have continued, but let me chip in. Midhula, I have a couple of questions before I open the mic to the audience.
Sure.
One is, you are known for the influencer marketing campaign here in India. You can help the audience understand how did you go about it for any specific product that you did, so that it tells us a little more in a nuanced way the kind of marketing that you bring to the table.
So I would like to add a few points before that. We were, and still I think as a mindset, we are a very ROI based company. Like I was saying before also, I don't believe in buying growth. I believe in building a sustainable business. It's okay if I'm not going 200% every year. A 50, 60, 70% is still a good growth. And that's how we see it. Coming from that space, influencer marketing, when we did it, was in 2018. India didn't know what influencer marketing was. At that point of time, it gave us the maximum ROI. There were days when if an influencer posted and we got 1 crore in sales on the website in a single day within 24 hours. So it was extremely, the return on investment was very high at that point of time. How we picked influencers, we do not look at their subscriber base. We look at engagement. How many people are actually following them, likes, comments, what are they commenting about? How many people are actually getting influenced by an influencer? At that point of time, even the consumer didn't know what an influencer marketing was. But we were also very particular that only if an influencer liked our products and is willing to genuinely use it, would we pick him or her. We would never pick somebody just because they've agreed to do it and they have a great fan base. Because we believed again that only when they truly use it and when they like the products, the genuinity of pitching it to their customer will come out and the customer will also be happy. So we sent all the times we sent samples, asked them to test it only if they were happy. We used to actually have a long conversation of why do you like it? What do you like about it? And only then once they were on board and we felt like, yes, this is the right person, we used to go into influencer marketing. We don't do a lot of influencer marketing anymore. We do it to a certain extent, but not too much anymore because influencer marketing has stopped giving returns. It is still a great platform to build awareness, but now everybody knows what influencer marketing is. And in influencer also, every other day they're posting about a new brand. There is no consistency, there is no loyalty. So we've stopped doing influencer marketing and moved on. Like I said, we've started with platform marketing first, and we still continue to be very heavy on platform marketing. We always pick niches which give a lot of return on investment. We'll try a lot of things, but ROI is always calculated with our marketing.
Thank you. I think that's a story which is quite consistent with your ethos of ROI-based marketing rather than any fad that you would jump onto just for the sake of being there. I think that talks a lot about your initiatives. Of course, influencer marketing campaigns would give you a lot of awareness,
yes.
not necessarily your growth.
Yes.
That is very interesting. Now I come to the second level of thing. One is in terms of products on one axis, and the other is in terms of the profile of the consumer. To understand the changing needs of these both, you need to have a very good research infrastructure available to the organization. It's no longer on the gut feel, and because we are head on with a large number of other brands as well, both organized and unorganized, and the differentiation will not happen without having this insight driven by data that comes from the research. So Midhula, can you help us understand what is the research prowess that you have put in place for your organization?
It will not be as complex or fancy as probably you're expecting for the size of the brand we are, because we believe that figuring out the vision and the journey and the growth of the brand is a founder's job. It's not selling product, it is not creating the campaign. As we grew, we were able to bring in wonderful people into the system that could take care of these. But which direction should we go? What product, what is the market moving towards is not gut feeling. It comes from keeping up to date with what the market does. It could be figuring out what is happening in the rest of the world. For us, electronics generally, after something launches in the US, they try to trickle down to India in the next 6 months. So figuring out what is happening in the world, then also figuring out what other companies are working towards, or what is it innovation that is available in the market today. Now everything is AI based. What is the company doing based on that? Or, LLMs, what is happening in that space? So keeping up to date with technology and then figuring out what the company should do with the changing tech is a founder's job. At least at a product company, is it for us? I am not sure. I can't say that very generally also, but for us at Mivi, it is a founder's job. We are very much in tune with what is happening on every marketplace in India in terms of electronics, every brand in the world in terms of electronics. We attend different conferences across the world. We are in different, meetings across the world, talking to technology builders. For example, chipset builders. They are building chipsets for something new. So what is it? What is the capacity that the chipset can hold? And what is the software that our team can build on top of it? What is the firmware that our team can build along with it? So there is no very accurate method to it yet. Maybe we'll develop in the next few years, but that part is very much handled by me and Vishnath personally. And it comes from multiple insights, from our partners, from our vendors, from the ecosystem, from other companies, from the competition, from all these spaces, we bring in that insights.
Your response is music to ears, so I cancel the noise.
Thank you.
No, I have understood your response in terms of intelligence gathered from marketplace on one hand, on the other, in terms of the landscape itself
Yes.
that you talk to, listen to, understand, keep tabs on, and then probably then you have your own method of embarking on the new product or the new idea that you need to work on. So
there is a method to the madness. I don't know
what
exactly
it is.
Is.
At this stage. The third question before I open the mics for the audience is, how do you define your competition? Are you on the same boat or on the same pod?
We are somewhere in between, to be very honest, and we are building towards a different direction. We've started with being a very value-based brand because that is all we could do. Like I said, we did not have the investment in Mivi came from what I and Vishnath earned in the US. It was not that we suddenly got in funds and we didn't pick up funds. We are still a bootstrapped company. So it was a step-by-step growth, but we were clear on the direction. We've started along with the boats, but today we are no longer on par with that. We are today competing with the likes of a OnePlus, the likes of a Realme. Oh. Will we compete with the pods and the OSs? Yes. It will probably take us another 5 years from now. But the vision is that, one thing that we both feel strongly about is we have an Accenture, we have an Infosys. We don't have a Meta. We don't have a Google. Similarly, in electronics, we don't want to just stick to becoming, one more brand that only does Me Too products. We want to be able to develop technology. We want to be able to create new products, which actually last year we've released our own patented technology. Like Apple has spatial audio, Sony has LDAC, Iris. So last year we've released our own patented technology called 3D Soundstage. It took us 2 years of working with some of the best people, audio engineers in India, from some of the best production houses, a lot of teams to create it. But that was step one. This year, for 2025, we are working on a global launch. It will be the first product in the world itself of that kind. So we're slowly moving towards it. The ambition and the vision is to become that electronics brand from India, which the globe will recognize. And we sell to the Western market. We not just consume the Western goods, we are selling to the Western market. And they're looking up to the brand and saying, oh, that brand does a lot of advancements. That brand is the pioneer in that category.
Amazing vision and amazing new levels of vision that you're building for yourself as you move forward. Audio tech is a very interesting and competitive space as well at the same time. It is a challenging space, I would say. And therefore, just now you mentioned that you've not picked up investments, but we read about that N+1, that was there, right?
It's debt financing.
Okay. Fair enough. So therefore, my creeping greed syndrome is to ask you one more question. That is,
sure.
What keeps you on tenterhooks? Because essentially, it's a homegrown brand, pun intended. What is the pressure from investors when you don't have an investor? So what keeps you on your tenterhooks?
I don't know if it sounds a little philosophical. I and Vishnath really love building Mivi. We absolutely enjoy it. We are not, which might be a negative thing also, we're not overstressed about, like I said, Are we not getting the 200% growth? We got 100%. We're happy, but we are more interested in, were we able to advance as a company a little more? Were we able to, build something more value out of the company? What keeps us on tenterhooks? I don't think we both are very much on the tenterhooks. We are more about, we want to be the best to the market, like develop something new. Even when our competition picks up funds, we've been approached by a lot of investors over the years. But we are very clear, it's not, if required, if the company, not company, but if the business demands it, we will pick up funds at one day. It's not, we're not against it, but we look at it a little from a traditional mindset as, what is it that we can build long-term, sustainable versus chasing that growth? And the tenterhooks for us is, have we grown in every way from last year? Are we providing the customer a better quality, better tech, better design, better value, better service? That is extremely important for us. If you see our value propositions every year, we discuss it. And the first value proposition, which is, if you only had to pick one, that will be the only value proposition, is customer delight. It's written on the top, very clearly pasted, saying that fine, if you lose out on a little bit of a sale, we'll still be okay. Everything else will still be okay as long as we are servicing the customer, giving the customer the best product that we can give, and servicing the customer right. Because in the long term, you will not get a customer back that you've lost once.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. I was also trying to understand, apart from what you mentioned, is that which stakeholder group in your organization keeps you on tenterhooks, in the sense that sometimes it's customers, sometimes it's investors, sometimes it's yourself, sometimes it's regulatory bodies. So there could be anyone, but of course, as you said, it is
always it is us only. Like I said, we don't have the pressure of investors. There's no investment. We've picked zero investment, so we don't have the pressure of investors. We don't have to answer to anybody, but we are very, very critical people of ourselves. So we set targets, and we love chasing those targets. Like I said, customer delight is number one proposition, but we have it in every direction. We will be very upset if we are not able to launch a particular product that we said, okay, this year we are going to launch this kind of product. We will make a sound bar, for example, and we are not able to. But investment pressure is lacking, which if we had a little bit might help a little more, but yeah, it's lacking right now.
No, very interesting, very interesting. It calls for a greater self-regulation, and I'm sure that is evident from your talk, that you put yourself under pressure, you have the targets, you go by those deadlines, and you want to launch those new products, additional features. Yes, that is decent enough to move enough. But as we build the organization, as is understood from others, that they build an external stakeholder group that they report to, in the sense that they go by, that they keep themselves on tenterhooks. That's the motivation to actually meet up or keep pace with them. For example, if you don't have anyone else to tell you, it's an echo chamber. But if you have someone to tell you, there's an open house, or there's a system or some kind of a process in place, that's a conduit for you to take feedback and respond to, and at least go back and among two of yourself to think that, hey, we need.
So it's not amongst us two. We have an amazing work culture at Mivi. We are a very open-ended organization, to the point that our security guard is also not afraid to come talk to us. So we listen to people, we listen to teams, and we have great team members. People that have worked at huge companies like Ola, Paytm, Flipkart, Airtel, you name it. We have people that have had very good journeys at these places. And we take those inputs and we together say, okay, this is the direction. And with their experience, if they come and say, no, I think this is the direction, you're not moving in the right direction, and this is where we need to move to, we are all ears. It's not always somebody that we have to answer to, but it is also listening to your team that is coming with so much experience to say, fine, this makes a lot of sense and this is something we should implement.
Great. Thank you very much. You're all ears. That is also a good punchline for your organization.
Yes.
as much as you hear like a fox.
Correct.
Do you use an advertising agency, or you design your own advertisements?
85% of our marketing happens in-house. We have a few agencies we use ad hoc.
Excellent. On this happy note, what I suggest is audience may raise their hands. We'll open the mic for you and we'll take one or two questions given the paucity of time. But before they raise their hand, Midhula, I have one question. That is there any interesting branding strategy that you have adopted that you would like to tell us?
Yes. See, one thing in India, most of the brands are today missing is proposition. We are running behind awareness, but we are not positioning the brand. If you think of international brands, generally you have a feeling associated with it. One of the companies that did it extremely well, or few of the companies, Royal Enfield, there is a proposition to it. There is a niche audience that could buy into that kind of a lifestyle. It's selling that. It's not just product is great, the product is great, but I'm making this kind of proposition for this kind of a lifestyle. Even if you take Hero Honda, it was always mileage. The proposition was very clear. Even if other companies were giving better mileage after a certain point of time, Hero Honda meant mileage. You were clear about it. But now branding, the new age companies are forgetting to proposition and position their brand. They're running purely behind awareness. What happens with awareness is you will get sales, but you will not establish or will not be able to figure out a premiumization from the customer.
Absolutely, absolutely. But business is positioning. That is a large number of companies, whether it is audio tech or any other landscape that you look at, majority of them get carried away by, of course, building awareness and ending there. So since the audience is responding so clearly that they have understood everything, we have Malavika to ask the question. After this, I'll request Professor Prasad to finish his question. Malavika.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Good evening, ma'am. It was really nice listening to you. Unfortunately, I couldn't join dot on time. I was a bit late in joining, but getting to know from the horse's mouth, as we say, the founder of a product company is actually a big thing. As a marketing faculty, I also got a lot of insights. So basically, there are two questions that I would like to pose. Like for services, we talk about personalization and hyper-personalization. But for product companies, probably to that extent, it's not possible. And so that is one aspect. Like when we're talking about proposition, of course, it's very true. First and foremost, that resonates with the customers is what is the company all about? What is the product all about? So with respect to personalization, what is your take for a product-based company? And secondly, the second question is that what I've understood is that, as you said, you have an ecosystem of your own, right from the intermediaries, that is the value chain, most of it, as well as advertising. Also, you said that almost 85% of it is done in-house. I would like to know, like, what are some of the challenges that a company might face? Because it's not an easy task that everything is done in-house. And one thing I would like to share, or maybe I would like to tell you as the founder, you're the founder, that honestly, I was not very aware about the brand, but now that I've understood the value-based ethos and all the product, the amount of effort and basically targeting and addressing the pains of the customer, like top of the mind recall is one big aspect. Next time when I am going to buy something, I'm planning to buy a earpod for myself. Maybe the first company I would search is for Mivi. So when it comes to, so when it comes to this aspect, like customers become aware and you get that position. You're saying that your competitors are not both right now, but Redmi and the international players. But in the domestic market, where do you stand right now in terms of your brand amongst all the competitors, in terms of brand recall, brand equity? So that is basically my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Malavika. I'll answer the second question first. I think the second question also had multiple parts to it. So challenges in building an in-house team. See, it's not the day one that we were able to create that entire ecosystem in-house. We worked with different agencies for different, departments. We worked with a lot of freelancers. We worked with consultants. As we grew, we were able to bring in more people into the ecosystem, bring in more departments in-house. Initially, we only had the core departments or the managers. Actually, we didn't even, to be very honest, we started with executives. There was not even a single manager in the company. So it takes time. It takes, that amount, that stage you have to get to build that ecosystem. Probably, if you ask me 2 years down the lane, my team will be much more bigger. Probably I'll have 5 more departments. So we take it as a need base. Even today, there are departments where they are completely outsourced because they are not our core. They are not as critical to us, and they can be managed by a consultant or a contractor or an agency. And I don't want to bring that hassle in-house today. So it is a step-by-step process. Then you not knowing Mivi is completely fine because you are not our target group. Like I was saying in the presentation, you will have to figure out who your target group is. You've said you're a marketing professor. You probably, if you go into the class and ask people, ask your students, how many of you know Mivi? The response, I'm 100% sure, is much bigger. Because whenever I get invited to, let's say, a panel discussion, 90%, maybe not 90%, 50% of the people will not know Mivi on the panel, the guests on the panel. 80% of the audience will know Mivi when they are youngsters. Because our target group is that. I actually don't want to waste my marketing money talking to anybody other than my target group. Yes, will Malvika also buy earbuds? Yes. Will Mr. Sudhakar buy it? Yes. Will I buy it? Yes. But you can't be everybody. I mean, you can't have everybody as your target group, at least till a certain extent. Even for Apple, right? Even for Apple, not everybody is their target group. They have certain target groups to where they are catering to, but the brand has been there for so long and has marketed so much that everybody knows. So again, can we shout louder? Can we invest much more in marketing? Can we shout louder? Can we get known by everybody at the same time? Yes. But will it be buying growth? Yes. And we don't want to buy growth. I am more interested in reaching my target group first to the maximum potential and then maybe going broader and broader. So that is your second question. For question 1, personalization and proposition are very different things. See, personalization is saying, I will put your name on it, or, I'll actually make a dress for you. Proposition is saying, what does the brand stand for? They're extremely different things. Like I also gave an example already. You know what Hero Honda stands for. Hero Honda is not personalizing. Even Royal Enfield, you know what they stand for. That is proposition. Today, if you ask your TG, if you ask our TG, they all know Mivi stands for clarity. Mivi's proposition is here clear. Will we put names on their on their products? Will we give more color options? Can they add stickers? This is part of creating that experience for them. But first thing is proposition. Do you know what the brand stands for? Yes. Or do you just know, okay, it's another, I'm very aware of it. It's just another earphones brand. And when you ask that question of where you stand today in the domestic market, I'm only talking about domestic market. A OnePlus and Realme today captures 35% share of our Indian market earphones category. They are eating into our market. I'm competing with them to cap. It's still domestic. I'm not talking about international. Domestically, there are Chinese brands that are eating away our market share. And Indian brands are not able to compete because we were not able to make that kind of a quality of product. And that is the story, the narrative that we are able to change now. We were not able to. Honestly, the first 5 years, we were competing with the value-based brands only. But now because we were able to build those products and all, we are able to start eating into that share that these Chinese brands are capturing into.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am, for that response. Malvika is very happy about that response. Now I request Professor Prasad to come back for a question or two.
Thank you. I think, this is From proposition to personalization to philosophy is driving me in that direction. So I've heard so much from what I had a question earlier. ROI marketing versus growth-based marketing sounds so Indian. I mean, it's an Indian approach. ROI-based marketing is an Indian approach. And this growth-based marketing is something that funders have brought in, so much of capital available. So it fits in a lot. So then the other one is this proposition versus personalization. You just described it. And yet another thought which I got is, this customer versus competition. Where are you focusing? And I found that though you're looking at the competition, you're focusing on the customer. And
Yes.
so it reminded me of, the Steve Jobs and his way. I mean, some of those questions that Professor Sudhakar asked about, the stakeholders who who will make you stay on trend. Steve Jobs was not that category. I mean, he was obsessed so much with the product that was far ahead of what perhaps competition would even think of. So I think the direction that even Amazon was taking during that time, from e-commerce, then cloud servers, I mean, building layers and then but still being customer centric. So that sort of thinking that you have brought to the business is truly very different from what the average Indian entrepreneur will think. And if you want to make a world-class organization, product-based organization from India, I think the thinking needs to be more like this. A lot of entrepreneurs who may be looking at other parameters, maybe divesting at some sort and at some time and then moving out. I think yours is different. So it brings me to the question that if you have to look at your DNA, and here I'm asking something which is a little more philosophical, the kind of DNA that you have built because of what you've done from 2015, how do you articulate it?
The DNA of the brand. I think the most important thing in our DNA is be the best, don't need to be the first. We are not in that race of saying that we want to be the first to the market. However, we are much more particular about into our capacity that we always do the best, even if it gets delayed by a year sometimes. Sometimes, a launch for us, a product for us gets delayed by a year. But we are always able to capitalize on the market because we give the best, which is not offered in the market at that point of time.
Thank you, ma'am, for articulating one point. But I think, perhaps there'll be many more which will come to our mind as we go.
Yeah. So I think that's the basic DNA. In different things, we have DNAs. For example, culture. We are very, very particular about risk. One thing, living abroad, we've learned is everybody is equal. Just because of their skill set, they are getting a different salary paid. So if you see Mivi's office is entirely open. It's only glass even for meeting rooms and all. So anybody can go talk to anybody. There is no, hesitation to go approach anyone. There is no hesitation to put their thoughts across, their ideas across. They'll never don't have that fear of being mocked or, looked down upon. And the other DNA we have is we are very, very, how should I put it, parity. It's maybe has 80% women. And interestingly enough, we don't look to hire women. The only requirement in the company is to hire the best person for the job. The requirement is don't look at gender. And that is a very interesting discussion we have because, we hear a lot about we have to have a lot of representation. We have to have, reservations put across, set aside. We don't have anything of that sort. We just tell the teams, everybody across, don't look at gender. And many times, you won't believe, in my 8-9 years of running Mivi, I've had requests saying that we don't want to hire a woman into this position because we don't think they can handle it, or it's not safe, or we don't want to hire from this particular region or this particular language. So we just are very strict that hire the best person for the job. Let them decide. It's a night shift. Let them decide that they don't want to do a night shift. Why are you being so considerate and not even considering them for the position they are open? So that is again is a DNA very strongly imbibed into. Women are very much respected. We have, special allowances in terms of leaves for women and more leaves for women with kids. Because I've gone through the journey, I know that to manage, no matter how much of a help you have, at the end of the day, if the child is sick or something, they always look for the mother. So we've created a space where it's accommodating, for women to be able to handle both. So respect is one, non-discrimination is one, then not being in the race to be the first, but to be the best to the market is again one part of our DNA. And then believing, we strongly believe only product companies will succeed in this world. There has been no history in the world where trading companies have created a company and have survived decades. Be it software, hardware, product is always at its core. So we believe only being a product company will allow us to create that sustainable brand.
Excellent, ma'am. I think, when you got into the next stage, you did talk about the organizational DNA. And I think that is if I were your competitor, I would be very worried. Because I think it is this sort of a culture which makes a very dangerous competitor. And somebody who's able to sustain that over a long period of time, will go a long way. We used to have discussions in ICFAI about organizational DNA. How do you keep a 100-year brand? What should be there in the institution? What are the complements? And I think, the founder who drove that really understood what was being meant. And I think this is going to be if you ask me, your differentiator. The product is a child of it. Product is a child of it. Thank you very much, ma'am, for responding to that question.
Thank you.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that interesting conversation as the last point. We have actually run out of time, and therefore I would like to thank you, Midhula, for this wonderful conversation. The purpose of WiseViews is to unravel some thoughts. It looks like developmental when we start conversing. It is for learning. The people who are in our classroom and outside, we term them as learners. We don't call them actually students. Even Prasad, when he is addressing a large number of learners, both online and offline, the term that we use is learners. And therefore, that keeps all of us at par and willing to learn. And therefore, at any stage, we should be open to learning. And that's what we believe in lifelong learning. I'm sure these discussions are going to help the audience. Some of them who have not joined will come back and listen to the audio as well as the summary that we provide, the text summary. I'm sure they'll come back and learn from the website. This has been the norm, but what today I have really enjoyed listening to you. There are many, many points, but let me focus on just one or two. One is that we are proud of you. We are proud of
thank
you.
Thank you.
We are amazingly proud of you for the kind of organization that you are building, making India proud, homegrown. The ecosystem is owned as well as our own, and making it for the world, not just for India. I mean, that's the basis for being proud of you. That's number one.
Thank you.
Number two, may you grow sharper, may you give earful to the customers, and may you give another kind of earful to competition.
Appreciate that. Thanks so much for the love, and it was really amazing to be a part of this panel, and the questions asked were very, very in depth. I hoped I answered to the satisfaction, and and I hope Mivi's journey. I really believe we need a lot more entrepreneurs in the country. That is the strength and backbone. After farmers and soldiers, entrepreneurs are the backbone for growth. We need to build our country, and I hope a lot more businesses will come into this picture.
Amazing. At ICFAI, we believe that entrepreneurs are the guys who have the spine of steel.
Yes.
And that spine of steel is the backbone of the country. So we wish you all the best, and we hope to learn with you. We learn to work with you as well, and look for opportunities to collaborate and connect with you as we move forward. And as a last point, I want to mention that on behalf of all of us here, we want to thank you for your valuable time, your responses, the expertise that you have shared with us. We feel like, looking more and more about for Mivi. I have just texted to my kids, do you guys know about Mivi? And they immediately responded, yes. So
that makes me happy.
I may not know about it, but my kids would know, my other friends in the TG would know. But great. Wish you all the best. And we love to learn from you, and keep watching your growth as well, and read more about you. Your website is very interesting. Your campaigning is very interesting. And there are lessons for all of us. Yes, as I said, business is about positioning. And if we stay aligned with the desired positioning to create the differentiation, I'm sure we are going to make lots of success stories out there for India. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back next week with yet another interesting leader on 27th of December at 6:30 p.m. And till then, keep reading more about Mivi, and we'll come back to you for the next week's session. Till then, have a great weekend and also a good night to all of you.